Today should have been the day when this Victorian government finally died of shame. Died of shame. I get that COVID is serious and sometimes drastic action has to be taken to keep people safe. But this latest 7-day statewide lockdown in Victoria, lockdown number 4, is only happening because of the epic incompetence and ineptitude of this Victorian state government. This is a government that couldn't even name the right supermarket as an exposure site. It's a government that didn't even bother to contact a Port Melbourne coffee shop yesterday to tell the business owner that he was running an exposure site. Instead, he heard it from his customers. This is a government that tells people to get tested and then makes them wait up to 5 hours or shuts testing sites down 20 minutes after they open because they've reached capacity. And why on earth aren't these centres operating 24/7 is beyond me. Given all of the public servants that run them, they've all been paid. They've even had salary increases during COVID when everyone else has gone backwards. This is a government that tells its people today to ring the vaccine hotline, and the hotline then crashes because some idiot hasn't thought to ramp up staff to take the calls that result.
I'll get back to you on the phone number before this media conference is over, Richard. But we are in the process of bringing in substantially more resources to the hotline. We will more than double the number of operators in the coming time.
It's a government that says its hotel quarantine is gold standard. But reports to the media today that the senior official in charge, before he was stood down for breaking his own COVID rules, was hiring mates from a gym on $100,000 taxpayer salaries to work in hotel quarantine. Gold standard? What a lie. It's a government that tonight at 5 p.m. allowed a plane load of travellers in from India to land at Tullamarine, where the 155 travellers have now all been bused to a quarantine hotel smack bang in the middle of Melbourne CBD. It's a government that says we've got this U-Butte mandated QR code system. It's all now sorted, but the Victorian Parliament itself doesn't use it. This would be an episode of Faulty Towers if it wasn't so serious. If we hadn't been locked up 3 times before and seen 800 of our most vulnerable Victorians die from the incompetence of the Andrews government. I can tell you I speak tonight for so many Victorians when I say to you, we have had enough. Where are all the promises last year that we had to be locked down for 4 months to avoid a third wave, to avoid further lockdowns? And yet here we are. Or some of us are. We've got a Premier who's on sick leave, a hotel quarantine minister who's still on sick leave, and the chief quarantine bureaucrat, Jerome Weimer, well, we're also told today he's off sick. Sick? Victorians are sick of the whole bloody lot of them and their incompetence, their lies and excuses.
Again, it's a cost to us in our back pocket.
Well, frustration, I mean, I speak for myself and many of my peers, frustration is probably an understatement. Disappointed and quite sad.
It's a difficult decision, but it's something that we have to live in with Melbourne because of the ineptitude of the Labor government.
Everyone needs to do what they need to do, but we can't just keep locking us down. Why the rest of Australia can get to function and we can't.
This is all the wood I'm using to panel up my windows and doors. I'm preparing for the apocalypse.
Today there was not even a hint of apology from anyone. And nothing either for the hundreds of thousands of businesses tonight, locked down yet again, but how they might afford to pay the rent and pay their staff without revenue coming through the door. Dan's little man, Molino, says he'll have something more to say on that in a couple of days.
How are businesses going to survive now that we don't have JobKeeper?
We'll provide additional support, and I'll have more to say about that in coming days.
Businesses need to know now.
We'll work through what support can be provided.
In a few days. That's, of course, what they said in February. And businesses that lost tens of thousands of dollars ended up with an insulting $2,000 from Andrews. Don't forget, this time there's no JobKeeper, no federal government support as a backstop. This time the devastation will hit far and wide. The acting Premier insisted today that their contact tracing teams were magnificent, even though they clearly can't cope with infection numbers much smaller than those New South Wales has coped with routinely. That's the reality we've seen so often through this pandemic. A slow-to-act Victorian tracing team that's let the virus get away from them, and we end up with a weak government that doesn't trust its own systems to work as they should, pulling the lazy lockdown lever. Today, unlike the past 3 lockdowns, today there was a real push from the state and federal Labor Party to make this lockdown the Prime Minister's fault.
We would not be in this position that we are today, this necessary and difficult position that we are today, if our vaccination rates were much higher than they are right now.
Do not buy this spin. It's what's called a deflection play in politics. It's coordinated and it's designed to deceive. Here are the facts. All other states are working to the same vaccine rollout schedule, and none of them are going into a lockdown tonight. None of them have had 4 lockdowns. This lockdown is the failure of Victorian Labor. A failure of Victorian Labor. And Anthony Albanese has finally woken up that he will face the Victorian voter in a federal election before Daniel Andrews does. So he's trying desperately to blame Scott Morrison, fearing Victorians will come at him with their baseball bats. Well, trust me, there's more than enough baseball bats in Victoria for both Albo and Andrews to cop a whack. On social media, the usual left-wing activist types were up and about early this morning, getting to work on precisely this strategy of deflection. Here's the tweets pushing to get up and trending the hashtag Morrison's lockdown, and followed by the Labor frontbench at question time too. Now, for the life of me, given all of this, I can't understand why Scott Morrison yet again today made excuses for a state government that keeps failing its people again. I get that prime ministerial censure won't make state governments any more capable, but it might at least force the Andrews regime to face up and own their mistakes. And it would let the Australian public know there are at least some standards of competence that are expected from ministers and governments at the very least. For lockdown-weary Victorians, it would let them know that somewhere there's a political leader in their corner. I wonder when we'll see a Victorian federal MP with a spine stand up in the party room in Canberra and challenge the Prime Minister, who's had royal commissions into everything else, to finally hold a proper inquiry into Australia's response to this pandemic, the cost in lives, livelihoods and our $1 trillion debt, so that we Victorians can at least get some answers as to why things have been badly, incompetently managed here, so that no other state, not even Victoria again, suffers like this.